Okay, good evening, everyone. 7:01 Central. I'm 1 minute late, and it's all because I was foolish enough not to know how to press my mic on. I just gave a great introduction, starting at 7 o'clock, but I was muted. So now I'm on. Welcome, everyone. This is video-based rule session number 3. This is Tuta, and tonight I'll be presenting along with Brandon. We're going to have an extra special emphasis on foul reporting along with our rules study session tonight. Obviously, foul reporting is extremely important, not only for the referee, but for the entire crew as we mentally process the way we're going to enforce penalties. So without further ado, I guess let's get started. Brandon, let's go with play number 1.
All right, here we go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back or welcome to these sessions. Very grateful to be able to have people interested to talk football. All right, play 1. I'm going to play. Okay, we see a lot of momentum plays on tests, but we don't see a whole lot of momentum plays on video. All right, so check out the play. The play is going to loop. It's just going to loop several times. So if you didn't get a great look at it the first time, just stay tuned. It'll loop, and you'll be able to see several replays, several shots. All right, go with us here. We're starting off with a bang. Pretend the 5-yard line is the goal line, and the 10-yard line is the 5. Okay, so we're moving the field on you. So the 5-yard line, that big white line near where the interception is made, we're saying that's the goal line. And we're saying the 10-yard line is the 5-yard line. Now, what we're asking is and we published the poll. What we're asking is, where's Team B going to next snap the ball? All right. So you have 3 options. Okay. So a lot of time, a lot of looks at the play. Are they going to snap the ball at the new 1-yard line, which on the screen in the actual field is the 6? Are they going to snap the ball at the 20? Or is it a safety? And B would then free kick from the 20-yard line. Okay, a lot of looks at the play. So we're moving the field on you a little bit. We'll talk about the results of the poll, and then we'll talk about just the rule that underpins our decision making here. Okay, we still have votes coming in. So we're still looking at the play. A lot of looks at the play tonight, baby. A lot of looks at the play tonight. We learn as we go with this platform that we've all grown to love dearly. Still a few votes coming in. All right, here we go. We'll end the poll. 56% say B is going to have the ball at the new 1-yard line, all right, which is the actual 6-yard line right there on the screen. 42% say the 20-yard line. So you're basically saying touchback, and then 1% say safety. So let's talk about the rule. Let's talk about what we're saying here. I'm going to try to let this go and start to play over. Hopefully it just streams for us. Okay, momentum rule. So if we move the goal line to the 5, we know that the rule says if the player controls the ball inside the 5 and his momentum takes him in to the end zone, which, remember, we're saying that, let me just get that video back up. We're saying that the 5-yard line is the goal line. So if we know that he controls the ball inside the 5 and his original momentum takes him, in our judgment, right? It's his original momentum that takes him into his end zone, and the ball stays in the end zone and becomes dead in the end zone. We have momentum. And that's really an exception to the safety rule. So we would not have a safety in that case. So we have to have control. We judge control wherever the player gains control inside the 5. That becomes a momentum spot. And what we want to clarify when we talk about momentum, especially like in this play here, it's really not, the momentum spot is not established by where the process of the catch ends. It's really established by where the player has, firm control. He establishes firm control with a body part on the ground. We know there's going to be time after that for the process of the catch, but the momentum spot is basically where he establishes firm control with the body part on the ground. Okay, so when we're working these plays, Tuta, as a deep wing, these plays are so rare. But how do you put yourself in terms of, maybe in position, either visually or physically, to make sure this doesn't catch you off guard and that you're ready to rule on this by rule?
Right. And so let's be honest here. So in my 17-year career, I've had exactly 0 momentum plays. So for me to sit here and talk about how great I would be on this momentum play, I would be lying to everybody. Obviously, a play like this where the defender catches the ball almost like a receiver in a receiver stride, it's very easy to get confused and say, "Oh shit, which one?" Oh shoot, excuse my language. Which player?
I'm sure nobody heard it. There's only 400 people on. I'm sure nobody heard it. Sorry, just keep going.
Right. I'm gonna work on my potty mouth.
Yeah.
Similar to on a kick play, when we work scrimmage kick plays, sometimes we get confused on who is the receiving team, who is the kicking team. But in this instance, if we are fully aware of which one is the defender, and we know he's the defender, right when we see he possesses the ball, then we need to drop our beanbag there. And basically what that does is signifies that we have a momentum at that point. There's really, I don't know if I can give any advice on how we could not be caught on this play, not thinking about it. It's just a very difficult play that we don't see. It's extremely rare. And I think that's the beauty of watching video and reviewing film. We get to see it and practice it mentally and have these mental reps before we actually get on the field and have it happen to us on the field.
Right, exactly. Okay, so now let's just work the play for what it is. We'll start the play back up.
Yes.
Let's just work the play for what it is. So we'll talk about the rules as it relates to the play. We know that if we move the goal line, okay, whatever. What we have to do is establish where firm control. Where is firm control established with the body part on the ground, and so for momentum to apply, that's got to occur at or inside the 5-yard line. And we talk about what's reviewable. The point at which he establishes control for the purposes of momentum is reviewable. Whether or not his own momentum took him into the end zone versus not, that's not reviewable. So that's an on-field judgment. But if we come out on this play and we say, let's say number 12 here, he establishes firm control at the 6. Okay, that's a fact. He controls the ball. He never bobbles the ball. So he controls the ball at the 6. And let's say he runs through into the end zone and becomes dead. And the ball becomes dead in the end zone. It stays in the end zone. The ball becomes dead. If we come out with a ruling on the field of momentum, replay can change that, because in college, we don't have momentum by rule if firm control is established at the 6. It's got to be at or inside the 5. Now, on the other hand, let's talk about, let's say, he certainly touches the ball at the 6, but let's say he bobbles it and doesn't establish firm control until he's inside the 5. Now momentum does apply. Okay, so if right here we're working in slow motion, if he basically first touches this ball right there at the 6, that's where he establishes firm control on this play. But let's say he bobbles it, and then he regains control, or he actually establishes firm control inside the 5. Okay, and then the ball becomes dead inside the end zone. Then momentum does apply. So all these different things, we certainly are piecing judgment together with the fact of where he established control, and just so we're all on the same page. Where we refer to this as sticking the ball. If the ball goes right into his hands right there and it never moves, we call that sticking the ball. And that's the spot where he establishes firm control. Now, he's still got to complete the process of the catch. But like we talked about earlier, the momentum spot is where firm control is established, not where the process of the catch ends. Okay, sometimes that can be confusing. All right. Tuta, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah. So just from a mechanical standpoint as well, and this kind of goes back to what we talked about in the end zone pass play discussion, where we talked about who can help and who cannot. In this situation, I think it would be great if we were dealing with this being the 5-yard line being the goal line. I think we need to, once we drop our beanbag, we need to look up to the back judge and make sure we maybe need to have a quick conversation and ensure we're on the same page so that we come out with the same ruling. We don't want to have two separate rulings on a play of this magnitude if this was actually the goal line.
Yep, exactly. And some of us might be thinking, does this meet the philosophy of control established? And we have doubt. If we have doubt, talk about if we have doubt whether or not control is established in the field of play versus established on or on the goal line or inside the end zone, how do we handle that by philosophy?
To put him in the end zone. If we're not
Right.
sure that he possessed it in the field of play, put him in the end zone. But if we're sure, and we are good enough to be sure in some instances, and I think this is one of them that we would be good enough, then we need to put it where, mark the ball where it is.
Yep. So to reiterate, where he sticks the ball is if you see him stick the ball and for a fact that he's, on the basically, as we look at the screen, he's on the right side of that big line. The big line's our reference point, whether it's the 5 or the goal line. Just if he sticks the ball on the right side of that big line and the ball, he doesn't bobble the ball after that, then that's where firm control is established. Now we still got to, again, work the process of the catch, finish the play, but that's where firm control is established. All right, so we can pause there. Interesting play, a lot of what if scenarios we can talk about. Yeah. Let's pause and see if there's any questions.
Well, hold on, Brandon. Before you do that, for all the geeks out there, and I'm a geek, the momentum is in Rule 851A. That's where you need to go in the rule book for where momentum is.
And I believe it's an exception to the safety rule.
That's correct.
Right.
That's
because
correct.
If basically what they're saying, the ball becomes dead, he carries it into his own end zone. So really, and we'll talk about impetus on the next play, but the impetus of the ball being in the end zone is attributed to the player that carries it across the goal line. But, again, when firm control is established at or inside the 5 and his momentum takes him across the goal line into the end zone, then that's an exception to the safety rule. So drop the beanbag at the spot where firm control is established, spot the ball out there as long as it's at or inside the 5. So what about any questions?
Hey guys, really, really nice job breaking this play down and going through those other scenarios. I think you touched on most of what we were interested in. I think Tuta talked about the beanbag mechanics and how that's an important part of this process, just to communicate what we're officiating, what we're ruling. Also, the idea of when in doubt, right? That's happening very quickly. So if we have any doubt, let's go ahead and make it a touchback. But that's not a free pass for us, right? If we see firm control, possession in the field of play, we're going to go ahead and use momentum. Talk a little bit, and we don't have to get too much into the weeds, but you mentioned firm control a lot, Brandon. Talk a little bit about the process of a catch, like maybe we're in the air with firm control, possessing the ball at the 1 yard line and landing in the end zone, or maybe we're falling down and going to the ground to complete the process of the catch and we end up in the end zone. Just can you make a distinction there a little bit for everybody?
Yeah, and it's interesting how this process of the catch and all these ideas about catching a ball, which seemingly is simple, seems to come up in just about every session, which is interesting. A lot of judgment, but also a lot of rules. A catch, control, three-step process, three elements to the process of a catch. Control, body part on the ground, and time. So time either to transition to a runner, or if you don't transition to a runner, survive the ground with control. All right. So in the case of momentum, the momentum spot is established when we meet the first 2 elements of the process of the catch: firm control and body part on the ground. That's where the momentum spot is established. And again, if there's doubt as to whether or not that's in the field of play or on or inside the goal line, not saying that right, on the goal line or in the end zone, if there's any doubt, by nationally accepted philosophy, we put that spot of firm control to make up a concept there. We put that spot in the end zone. In other words, we put the spot where he established firm control in the end zone. If we don't have doubt, We don't need the philosophy. We make the call, even though he finishes the process of the catch in the end zone, whether he's going to the ground or he actually fulfills the time requirement to transition to a runner, and then the ball eventually becomes dead in the end zone. If that firm control spot where he contacted with a body part in bounds, if that is out in the field of play, the momentum spot is where he established firm control and not where he completed the process of the catch.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you for that. And I would add, if you want to get deeper into catch, no catch in the process, join us next Friday night at 7 p.m. and we'll spend some time talking about that exclusively. All right, Tuta, last question. Awesome job with this play, guys, but this is for you as a new referee. Talk to us about how you want that communicated to you and then how you're going to communicate that to the millions and millions of fans across the country watching.
Wow. Amazing that you're going to put me on the spot on a play like this. Okay. So I think one thing, if we do have a momentum spot, I would like for the covering official or officials, one of them, to get on the 0-2-0 and just give me a quick statement. The ruling on the field is that the defender possessed the ball at the 1 yard line, and then I would get on and I would make a statement to the effect that by rule, I would use the word by rule. I don't need to go into saying momentum and all that. By rule, the ball will be placed at the 1 yard line, first down, Kansas State. But I would like for the covering official to get on and let me know that he has momentum, and he can tell me the actual football terms and what happened on the play, and then I'll translate that into the viewer terms and just use the word by rule, the ball will be placed at the 1 yard line.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Okay, play number 2. That was a good one.
Yes, sir. Play
Now,
number
Brad, if you thought that one was a good one,
Yeah.
you stick around for this one.
There we go. There we go. Play number 2. All right. Same process. Let's get this poll out there. Play 2. Okay, here we go. It was a wet night in Texas. All right. It was rainy, lightning everywhere, 2.5 hour delay. Oh my gosh. And then this play happens in the first quarter. So here we go. Play 2. Punter mishandles the snap, regains control, and fumbles the football. And then B81 kicks the ball into and out of the end zone. 2 options, right? Flip a coin. What's the result of the play? Touchback or safety? So cast your vote. Watch the play. A lot of opportunities to see these angles. I think we have 2 or 3 different angles. A lot of rules aspects going on here. You know, we've got 4th down fumble, perhaps, to think about, although certainly doesn't, become too relevant here. But when we talk about 4th down fumble, why do we talk about 4th down fumble? We can talk about that if you want to. We can talk about impetus. All right, so votes are coming in. The play's going to keep looping. Talk about communication between officials on how, piecing these things together, what's reviewable. All right, so here we go. We end the poll. 71% say the result of the play is a safety. 28% say the result of the play is a touchback. And so, the first thing we have to do when we talk about the ball basically traveling from the field of play into the end zone is understand impetus and, who's responsible. Who is that impetus attributed to? Who's responsible for the ball being traveling from the field of play across the goal line and into the end zone? Okay, so what do we have? We start the play with a backward pass, which is a snap. Okay, a snap is a backward pass by rule. We will loop the video. Now, I don't get in the habit of using the word muff too much, but I'm going to go ahead and use the word muff tonight, all right? If you ever hear me say the word muff on a microphone, make sure to let me know about it, because I really don't get in the habit of that. But what does the punter do? He muffs the snap. All right, he muffs the snap. Muff is an unsuccessful attempt to gain possession. So the punter is going after this loose ball after he mishandles the snap. He definitely gains possession of the ball. It's just like the process of the catch. He controls the ball firmly in his control with his two hands. He has a body part on the ground, and he has time to transition himself to a runner right there. Now, he fumbles the ball. Okay, the ball slips out of his control. That's a fumble. And what happens? The ball strikes the lower leg of the player on the defense, who I believe was number 81 right there. All right, so we have to figure out, who are we charging the impetus to? The ball's loose. It really is kicked. Is that kick an intentional act or an accidental act? If it's intentional, then that changes the impetus. If it's accidental, that's just another muff. So it's judgment, and certainly we don't get too far into judgment, but I think we can all safely say here that this player had no intent around kicking this ball into and out of the end zone. Okay. You watch the play, you're on the field, you got to make a decision. If you're not sure between, was it an accidental kick or an intentional kick, certainly I think we would want to give the benefit of the doubt and go towards accidental, which means he muffed the ball. Now, if we muff a loose ball from the field of play into and out of the end zone, that does not impart new impetus to that football. Okay, so it retains its basically its last status, which was a fumble by the offense. So if the impetus is attributed to the fumble by the offense and the ball is ruled to be out of bounds in the end zone, then that's a safety. Okay, so what's reviewable here? I mean, there's a lot going on. Maybe before we get to reviewable too, Todd, let's talk about the rule relative to the ball being out of bounds in the field of play or the end zone as it threatens a pylon.
Yeah, well, before we do that, again, just for all my geeks out there, Rule 216.1 is where we need to start when we talk about kicking the ball. And I know, Brandon, you said kicked accidentally and all that. I'm going to disagree just a tiny bit with you. I don't think you can have an accidental kick because by rule, a kick is intentional.
Yeah,
and that's
you're right.
That's just me being technical on it. But I want
Very
people
technical.
to understand how important these terms are. And this is all in Rule 2. We talked about muff. That's in Rule 2. Kick. That's in Rule 2. So if we understand what these things are, then we can start to understand how to apply the actual rule once we base our judgment on what happens with that ball at the pylon. All right, now let me go back. Now, what were you asking, Brandon, about the pylon, the ball on the pylon?
What do we need from a judgment perspective to see, ruling the ball out of bounds either in the end zone or in the field of play as it relates to the pylon?
I got you. So if I was the referee, as I'm standing there on the goal line looking, if I can see the pylon disappear, then I know that the ball passed in front on my side of the pylon. And if it passed on my side of the pylon as the referee in this instance, then that means the ball would have gone into and out of the end zone. If I don't see the ball, let's say the ball, the pylon, wait, did I say the ball disappeared or the pylon disappeared? I don't know which one I said. If the pylon disappears behind the ball, then the ball is inside the pylon. Mm-hmm. If the ball disappears behind the pylon, then that tells me that the pylon is inside the ball, which means the ball would have crossed the sideline, inline, and sideline goal line intersection outside, which means it would be inside the 1 yard line and not necessarily in the end zone, dead in the end zone. Then obviously this is a very critical play. And as the referee and head line judge did, we need to compare notes. We don't want to just come out and make some quick ruling. We want to compare notes and make sure that we saw the same thing on a play right here before we make our decision.
That's right. So referee, headline judge get together and basically, you just want to confirm that you're on the same page here. And this is so tight. I don't think we have a shot that really proves whether or not the ball was out. Did it break the plane of the goal line, over the pylon, inside the pylon, or did it break the plane of the sideline, basically, before it crossed the plane of the goal line? So no definitive shot in terms of what's reviewable. Whether that kick is intentional or it's accidental, which means it's a muff and it's not an accidental kick, which is a great point that you made about the definitions. That's not reviewable. Okay. That's not reviewable, whether or not he accidentally or intentionally kicked the football. What is reviewable, and ask questions and point out other things that I might miss here, but what is reviewable is, did the ball break the plane of the goal line or not? But you got to have a shot, right? And I would assume that all of our replay friends on here feel that there's really no indisputable video evidence either way if we rule that ball out of bounds in the field of play. And in that case, it would be B's football at the out of bounds spot because this was fourth down. I don't think you have enough to overturn that. If we rule the ball out of bounds, in the end zone, look at these shots, I don't think you have enough to overturn that. So the ruling would likely stand either way, and maybe the replay officials will help me out with their judgment relative to these camera angles. It's going to be rare on a fourth down punt play that you would have a camera down the goal line. I mean, in most games across the country, we're talking about, where cameras are placed, it would be probably pretty rare that you're going to have a goal line down Team A's goal line with the ball basically snapped out. Where are we at here? Like the 25-yard line, almost the 30-yard line, the minus 30. So it would be pretty rare to have a goal line camera positioned right there.
So Brandon, as I look at this play, it's always interesting to me to hear other people's perspective. I watched this play 100 times, and I never even considered the fourth down fumble rule aspect. Number 40 on A is right there. So if 28 fumbled the ball and then 40 picked it up and attempted to run with it, we got to have the wherewithal to kill that play because the play is over at that point.
Yeah, so that's a great point.
Really good point that you made right there.
So let's talk about that. What are we talking about? Fourth down fumble rule. Fourth down, you see every official give what is normally the false start signal, or if you're a basketball guy, it's the traveling signal, whatever it is. And quite frankly, I think a lot of us do it empty. I mean, it's kind of becomes an empty mechanic. Let's just do it on fourth down. But it really should trigger some thoughts. And one of those is the fourth down fumble rule, meaning that if a player of the offense has possession of the ball and fumbles the ball, and you got to have possession to fumble, he fumbles the ball, then that ball can only be recovered and advanced by the fumbler. So if a teammate of the fumbler picks up the football, like maybe number 40 could possibly right here, wherever he picks that up, that ball's dead. Now, if he picks it up behind the spot of the fumble, the ball's dead at the spot where he controls the ball. If he picks it up in advance of the spot of the fumble, the ball is brought back and placed, at the spot of the fumble. And if that spot is behind the line to gain, the ball is awarded to team B. If team A, if they run with the ball, they fumble and a teammate picks it up beyond the spot. If the spot of the fumble is beyond the line to gain, then the ball would stay with team A for a first down, but they wouldn't get any advance as a result of the fumble. All right. Anything to add on the fourth down fumble rule?
Yes. Fourth down fumble rule for everybody who has their rule books in hand. Rule 722A, exception number 2.
Fourth down fumble rules in Rule 7. Wow.
That's correct.
There we go. Learn something. All right, so we can pause there. And interesting play. A lot going on. A lot that we actually probably didn't cover that we could have, but for the sake of time, let's talk about questions and we can keep moving.
Yeah, great play, guys. And like you said, Brandon, just a ton of stuff that could go on there. We had an official ruling from Mr. Carl Gertz that we're going to stay with the ruling on the field, given the angles that we're looking with tonight.
All right.
Hey, real quick, just wanted to speak to the fourth down fumble rule signal. You made a great point, and I think you could extrapolate that to a lot of things we do that are just muscle memory. And a long time ago, somebody told us we were supposed to do it. One of the things that has helped me make that relevant, I heard Mike Carey say a long time ago, is that when you're doing that physically, mentally, what you should be telling yourself is, I need to know the number of the person who fumbles, the fumbler, if you will, right? So as I'm making that signal, I'm telling myself, know the number of who fumbles, or the ball carrier, right? Know the number of the ball carrier. That way you've put yourself mentally in a position to where when that happens, whether it's a PAT or a fourth down, you've hopefully triggered something so you can get there a little bit quicker. So just wanted to add that, but nothing else I don't think we need to address relative to the play.
All right, very good. Tutai, you want to fire up play 3, and I got the poll ready to roll.
Yes, sir. So Brandon gets the calculus plays, and I get the elementary math plays. So this is just a simple pass play. But I think the line of scrimmage was inside the 20-yard line, somewhere around the 16-yard line, and we have a defensive holding. First of all, great mechanics by the back judge, giving a preliminary signal. That's obviously always important. And then the question we're having is about enforcement. So how are we going to enforce this? Are we going to go to full 10 yards? And it's going to be a first down if we reach the line to gain? Are we going to go to full 10 yards and it's an automatic first down? Or are we going to go half the distance and it's going to be a first down if we reach the line to gain? Or are we going to go half the distance and it's going to be an automatic first down? So you have 4 different choices there. 2 of them are there's 2 couplets that are kind of similar to each other. And then the play is going to loop as we watch the votes come in. And votes are still coming in. Interesting thing you can see at the end of the play, let's not go to sleep. We could have a potential targeting right there. It's real easy to go to sleep especially as the back judge, but if we're not the back judge, not the person who's processing the hold and the action on the foul, field judge, side judge talking to you, we really need to be aware of that defender coming over. We could have a potential target or even just a standard ordinary late hit, depending on how the action plays out. Okay, let's go ahead on and end the poll. And as we can see, 68% of us, that does not add up to 100. The 68% of us say the penalty is going to be half the distance to the goal and includes an automatic first down. Now, why does it include an automatic first down? Because by rule, when we have a defensive holding on an eligible receiver and the legal forward pass goes beyond the line of scrimmage, the penalty is going to include an automatic first down. Now, we are inside the 20-yard line, so the penalty in this case is going to go half the distance. We're not going to go the full 10. That was a way for me to try to trick people into thinking similar to pass interference. When we do pass interference, we can do the full 15, but holding penalty is going to go half the distance to the goal. Let's talk about reporting this foul. It is very important for us to make sure, if we're the back judge in this situation, to make sure the referee understands prior to the pass. Get used to saying that because obviously it changes things. If we just have a brain freeze for some reason and the holding occurred during the pass, then obviously that wouldn't be a holding. That would be a pass interference, and then it would change the way we enforce this penalty. So let's just think about that when we're going to report this foul to the referee. Make sure we say prior to the pass, and then we explain what we have, holding number, whatever that was, whoever committed the foul. But excellent mechanics by the back judge giving the preliminary signal, because what that does is it helps the referee start processing. It helps the TV announcers actually start talking about things, and the producers are savvy enough to try to go back and figure out and get that replay to show the replay of the action as well. Brandon, what else we got to talk about on this play?
Yeah, some people might be questioning, or at least I'll tell you what, when I first saw this play, I said, man, why isn't that DPI? Shouldn't that, you talk about holding versus DPI? maybe, and we talked a little bit about it last night, but as a deep official where you've made this judgment 1,000 times, how do you execute that mechanic to make that decision? And I agree, that's what we want. Look at the back judge, how strong that body posture, that body language is, just full of confidence. But back to the question, how do you process defensive hold versus defensive pass interference?
Yeah, and in this situation, it's a lot easier because you can see the action, and the quarterback is pretty much all in the line of the back judge's sight. It's pretty much all lined up. It's the number 2 receiver at the bottom. He got grabbed. His jersey got grabbed. So basically, we will see that action, and then we will look back to the quarterback to see what the quarterback is doing. If the ball is still in the quarterback's hands, or if the ball literally just left his hands, then it stands to reason that grab, that restriction occurred while the quarterback, prior to the quarterback passing the ball, which means it will be defensive holding. If we look back and the ball is pretty well out of the quarterback's hands and almost to the receiver, or 5-10 yards away from the quarterback, then it stands to reason that action and that restriction occurred while the pass was in the air. But this one is good for the back judge because it's all lined up, and it made it easy because it's all right in his line of sight: the quarterback, the pass, and the restricting action.
Guys, I know, this is really a rule session, and that's what we're focused on. But man, Tuta, I just want to reemphasize your point because I think that is so important. There are a number of bad things that can happen after this ball has been thrown and after the defensive hold. And so as a back judge, we're really working to have an awareness pre-snap of where these defensive backs are so that we can feel them and he doesn't come out of nowhere and just blow our guy up, right? And we're not officiating a train wreck. But when you think about the focus of processing that hold, and you're thinking, and the back judge does an incredible job, totally agree. But when you're thinking about processing that hold, and is it a hold, is it DPI, that's such a tough transition to where the receiver is now collision, and that can be late, and that can be to the head or neck area. So just a great play in terms of visual mechanics and talking about like that not necessarily offside because we're in the middle of the field, but I would say off action official, either the side judge or the field judge, to continue to officiate through the end of that play, because that's going to be an incredibly hard transition for the back judge to come up with, and he's going to need some help there. And then the other thing I would say that's worth mentioning relative to the DH, DPI conversation, we talked a little bit about this the other night with the line of scrimmage guys. When it's on your key and you watch that whole action, it's a little tougher. A good rule of thumb, and of course there's exceptions, but a good rule of thumb, remember, is if you end up with an action that looks like defensive holding that is not on your key, means you've transitioned now because the ball's in the air. Use that as kind of a litmus test or a guideline for you to think that, okay, now I've transitioned, so the ball's probably in the air, so almost every time we're going to end up with DPI, right? So a little bit different than this play, but a good just rule of thumb, I think, to reinforce.
Hey, Daniel, Do you think the opposite of that is, you see action, it is your responsibility, or you switch there or whatever. You see action at what's referred to as the top of the route. Now perhaps we can lean more towards the defensive holding side of the equation. Yeah,
that's a great point too, because depending on what level you're officiating, most of the time, if we're breaking on a route, the ball's maybe not out yet, but it's getting ready to come out. So at that top of that route, most of the time we're going to end up with DH because the ball just isn't out yet.
Okay, very good, very good. So that was play 3. And as questions come in, certainly, we can go back, or if there's any questions to address, we can do that now as we get ready to queue up play 4. Tuta, I got the poll. Go ahead.
All right. Play 4. Again, we're going with elementary math here. Brandon does calculus. I'm not as smart as Brandon, so I get the simple plays. This is just a kickoff play, right? Simple kickoff play. We're going to look at number 2 on the far right side. He's right in the Big 12 logo. We'll see it come. We'll see the play loop a bunch of times. We just basically have a low block Look at the Big 12 logo on the right-hand side of the screen as the play develops. And we just have a low block. So what are B's options here? Let's figure out what are B's options. And B, just so we know, team A is the kicking team, team B is the receiving team on this play. Either everybody's extremely intelligent or the votes are not coming in. Not intelligent, let me not say that. Very well read on enforcement rules on kickoffs.
I think they're coming in. There was a mention. There was a mention of something about the connection. If anybody's having trouble, there's an opportunity to reconnect. I think there's like some red buttons or something like that up at the top of the screen, and just try to reconnect, and hopefully that solves your connection issues.
Internet is blazing fast down here in New Orleans, Louisiana, for everybody who's wondering.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Brandon, you gotta make sure everybody knows, man.
Okay, I don't think anybody was wondering.
Let's go ahead on and end the poll. And 92% of us are very aware of what happens on kickoff plays. I tried to trick people a little bit with our poll questions by saying kickoff and try to get you to think kick play, kick play, kick play. Basically, this is a foul by the kicking team, and any foul by the kicking team other than kick catch interference is eligible for being tacked on to the end of the previous play at the receiving team's discretion. Now, let's get into reporting this foul. This is not a normal type of foul situation, and anytime there's a foul on the kick play, what I would encourage everybody to do, in fact, I would not encourage, I would demand everybody to do, when you get to the referee, literally every time, not some of the time, every time, when you get to the referee, the first words coming out of your mouth needs to be during the kick or during the return. If you don't say that when you get to the referee, then you're not doing it correctly. You have to say during the kick, during the return, because what that does is now it puts us into the frame of mind and frame of reference of how are we going to enforce the penalty. We have to know the status of the ball on kick plays to know how we're going to enforce it. Now, this is a different type of foul because normally the receiving team would be committing fouls such as blocking in the back, such as illegal block below the waist, such as holding or something like that. Here, we have the kicking team blocking low. So when we get to the referee as the covering official, we want to make sure we slow down. And first thing we're going to say is during the return. And during the return, what that does, that puts us into what? A running play, right? So now we have a running play. So we know basic spot. And I know I'm getting kind of off track, getting into the penalty enforcement. But when we start talking to the referee, when we say during the return, I have an illegal block below the waist by the kicking team. And hopefully the referee will do a little double take at you and look at you kind of funny because that's not a normal type of foul. What we don't want to do is just quickly just go in there and just report block below the waist number 2 and then run out of there because now the referee is going to do what? He's going to assume that it's going to be on the receiving team, and we may get to a situation where we're enforcing a penalty incorrectly. So it's extremely important here. Not only do we always, on any kick play, have to start with during the kick, during the return, but we need to make sure that we are very explicit, making sure that referee understands that this foul is on the kicking team, not on the receiving team. What else, Brandon?
Yeah.
What did I miss?
No, so you covered that well. You know, I think the onus is really on the reporting, the calling official, the reporting official, whatever you want to call them, to communicate in the way that you said that. But referees, you know, don't let your crew down either. So you've got a framework, almost, you know, mocked up in your mind on how you want to accept the reporting from the calling official on kickoff plays. And I think what Tuta, he nailed it. First thing we want to know is during the kick or during the return. And, we get excited when we throw flags. We understand that. It's a big deal because we don't throw a whole lot, and our heart rate increases, our blood pressure goes up, anxiety levels rise. Okay. We've got to figure out a way to communicate appropriately. So referees, I don't know how many times in the past we have fouls on kickoff or punt plays. It doesn't matter, kick plays. The calling official reports the foul, and I just have a question. Was it during the kick or during the return? And then unfortunately, what we have to do then is almost remap the whole scenario because just to make sure we're correct. So referees, set expectations on how fouls should be reported. It's a kick play. Obviously, we're working this play. You see a flag. Okay, you're thinking, was it during the kick? Was it during the return? What's the foul? Who's it on? What team is it on? And then if we have all three of those elements, it should be pretty easy to accurately enforce this. But as easy as this looks, and I'm really happy that the poll results were so heavily, favored towards the right option. We've seen mistakes on these. So the result is easy, but think about the process, practice these things, whether you're a referee, practice, go through these mentally on how you want to receive the communication. Calling official, go through these mentally on how you want to report the information of the foul. And I think, if we just focus more on process on these kinds of things and framework on how we want to enforce these, in terms of the information we want to communicate, then we should be set up to almost nail these 100% of the time.
Guys, thanks for adding this kind of a play, and to all of you out there watching, a great play for you to bank and just great officiating because that foul's not really in a whole lot of traffic. It's not overly complicated, but it does catch you by surprise. We don't see that very often. So spending time going over that right now is really beneficial for us. Hey, guys, real quick, if we could just jump back to the defensive holding play real quick, if that's okay. Had a really good question, I thought, regarding where the ball was thrown. And so we've got that same action on an eligible receiver, but talk about all the options, right? The quarterback could look off and look somewhere else. Quarterback maybe never looked there. How do we work through that defensive holding if the ball goes somewhere else? What are the things we're thinking about as a deep official, and what is our philosophy there?
Okay, so we have the restricting action on the number 2 receiver on the right offense's right side. Let's say the quarterback took a 3-step drop, never looked to the right side, and immediately threw the ball far to the left side. What we want to do with that is hold our flag in our pocket, and we can either write up on our foul report, go warn the player afterwards, both. But we don't want to throw a flag for defensive holding in a situation where the restriction occurred 2/3 of the field away from where the pass was thrown. Let's say in the other scenario, which you kind of mentioned, Daniel, let's say the quarterback does look in that area where the restriction occurred, decides not to throw it, either gets sacked or runs, then we do want to have a flag down for defensive holding. And then let's get back into the penalty enforcement scenario. Remember, we're only going to have an automatic first down if it's a legal forward pass that goes beyond the line of scrimmage and is holding on an eligible receiver. So if he decides not to throw the ball for whatever reason after looking in the area where the restriction occurred, we would have a flag down, but that would just be a simple 10-yard penalty instead of 10-yard and automatic first down. So the two scenarios, if the ball is immediately thrown into a separate area, if the quarterback decides not to throw the ball after looking in that area, or let's add a third one. If he looks in the area, decides not to throw there, and then after a delay throws somewhere else, then we also would want a flag in that situation. The only time we would not throw a flag is if the quarterback is immediately and throwing the ball into another area and he never looked at the receiver where the restriction occurred. I don't know if that appropriately covers it, Daniel.
So would you say the key is the element of time. And you basically explain that, but the element of time between the restriction and when the pass is released or he's sacked.
Sure, I think it's a combination of time and location as well. I don't know if we just want to lean on time. I think we want to talk about location as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think you guys nailed it. It's a combination of proximity and time, but that time is really that heavier indicator. But proximity matters also because it could come out real fast, and if the teammate spacing relative to the routes is not really ideal, and you end up with guys close together, you could maybe potentially end up with a foul there too.
Right. So Daniel, I use the three syllable word location, and you use the 4-syllable word proximity. Is no need to show me up on a national.
I didn't even count.
Like this.
I didn't even count. It was an accident.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. Let's go to play 5. This is another interesting play. I think we found some great plays to share with the group today, Brandon.
I agree.
Let's get the poll going. We just have a punt play, simple punt play, right? No such thing as a simple punt play as we've already seen. Let's see if I get the poll going.
Got it.
Okay, Brandon beat to it. Punt is blocked. And then the kicking team picked up the ball. So there's your choices. Take a look at the poll and see what how are we going to handle this play and what is going to happen since A did not make the first down. You see the ball was picked up at the 38-yard line, recovered at the 38-yard line, and advanced to about the 45? And here come our votes.
Referees, we love it. We love to hear the contact of the ball to that receiving team player's hand. That's like music to our ears.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I would have thought you would want the ball to get off cleanly, so everything happens downfield away from you.
Well, we know that if he blocks the kick, then that player is exempted. He's kind of protected from running into and roughing the kicker. Type of action, from that. Which can be very difficult to judge.
All right, and as a back judge, we love that block punt. That's what we're looking for every time.
Right.
In my experience, that's about the only thing referees and back judges agree on.
Okay, let's end the poll. So it's all right. About 60% of us said it's going to be B's ball, 1st and 10, where A29 was tackled. And then 40% of us said the ball was dead by rule once A recovered it. I've kind of gotten away from my job, my duty, which I was giving everybody rule references earlier. The rule reference we need to know about is Rule 6. It's on page FR 68, Rule 636. Catch or recovery by the kicking team. The important thing to understand on this play is where did the kicking team recover the kick? And if we look at it, the line of scrimmage was, I believe, the 36 or 37. We don't have still frame. I wish we should have still framed this deal so we could see it. And then we need to look and see where was the kick recovered. If the kick was recovered behind the line of scrimmage, then the ball remains live and it's still in play. If the kick was recovered beyond the line of scrimmage, then it's dead immediately upon possession by the kicking team. And this is a strange play, obviously, because it's not something you see all the time. Most of the time when we have things that we're not used to seeing, it takes us by surprise and it's hard to really process. But the important thing to notice on this play and the important rule to understand is, where did the kicking team possess the kick and recover the kick? And in this situation, they recovered the kick beyond the line of scrimmage. So that means it's dead upon recovery.
So mechanically, look at I don't know if that's the headline judge or the line judge, not too important. The line of scrimmage official, opposite the press box, in good position, holding the line of scrimmage. On this play, there was really no reason to release that. So really good position mechanically from a physical standpoint. I mean, if the ball, the ball becomes, I was about to say becomes dead because I'm jumping to the result. The kicking team recovers the football to the line of scrimmage official's left, right? So he's looking to his left. So based on his excellent physical position, one thing he's kind of got to realize is that, man, that ball is recovered to my left. That's downfield. That's the kicking team. A lot of pieces to put together, right? But that's how we have to process these very unusual plays. And that's why I think the point we're trying to make, right, Ty, is how important rules knowledge is when these plays kind of creep up on us.
That's correct. That's correct. Because like we talked about with the end zone pass plays, if you're sitting here trying to process what the rule is as you're trying to evaluate what your eyes just gave you, what your eyes gave your brain, there's no way you're going to be able to figure this out. You're going to be frozen, basically. So yeah, it's very important to understand what the rule is on many of these, and that's why we're showing a lot of these plays, so we can get these mental reps, and hopefully when we get on the field. And just so everyone knows, I know we're not getting into was the call right, was the call wrong. I know sometimes we get into that, but the crew did get this play correct, just so everybody understands that.
And then from the standpoint of what's reviewable. So if the ruling on the field, let's just pretend the ruling on the field was that the kicking team recovered the football at or behind the neutral zone. Okay. And our replay officials, and specifically our friend Carl Gertz, since he's already chimed in on the pylon play, chime in again. If the on-field officials ruled that the kicking team recovered the ball at or behind the neutral zone, and in that case, then legally advanced the ball, replay, it's reviewable. Replay can come in and say, no, we have indisputable video evidence. The ball was clearly recovered beyond the neutral zone. We need to put the ball back at the spot of the recovery. It's fourth down. Obviously, the spot of the recovery is behind the line of gain. Let's give the ball to team B, and we would likely reset the clock, to win that ball was recovered. All right. So our friend Carl. Yep. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry, Brandon. FR 109 12 3 4D. Reviewable plays involving kicks include scrimmage kick crossing the neutral zone.
There you go. So, mechanically, we're in great position. We're looking where we need to be looking. We have help across the field, umpire, and we always have our 8th and 9th crew. 9th and 10th crew members, and that's not in any particular order, right? Just not 9th and 10th crew members up in the replay booth to help us. But let's make these calls. Let's know the rules. The whole point, know the rules on the field. Those guys can be looking at plays. If we know the rules on the field, we're going to nail these calls, and that's what we want to do. If for some reason they're tight like this and we just, whatever happens, we use that tool to get the play right. And like Ty mentioned, this crew got the play right without the use of replay. So it was really, really good job by the crew piecing everything together.
Hey guys, you mentioned, Brandon, I believe, if we go to review and we've got to fix this relative to the line of scrimmage, we're going to fix that clock situation. In a situation like this, like the crew had on the field, where they're able to get together, piece this together, and ultimately get it right. We've got 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but, it's a really close ball game. I've worked with some officials who are a little bit intense on the clock and wanting to run in and fix things. And the question is, do we want to do anything with the clock here? Are we gonna get into that at this point in the game? If we fix it on the field, if we realize, we should have killed this upon possession, what do you think about that?
Yeah, we can use the 5 and 5 axiom here. Now, look, this is an administrative. Let me say that again. Administratively collaborative opportunity for us to quote unquote, collaborate through the O2O and reset the clock. If in fact the folks up in the replay booth deem that a direct competitive effect, we don't have to go to replay to reset the clock in this case if we get the call right, but we can administratively collaborate, reset the clock if that's what we want to do. That's really governed conference specific. So as we have our little disclosure up at the chat, just realize that certainly the clock is an administrative aspect of the game. However, this does also meet the criteria of the 5 and 5 axiom, which is if it's not more than a 5-second error and we're not inside of 5 minutes and a half, then by rule, it doesn't need to be corrected. With that said, the advent of replay, it's an administratively collaborative opportunity to correct the clock. All right,
Brandon, take us home.
Here we go. Play 6. We are rolling 1 hour in. Does it really take an hour to discuss 5 plays? Yes, it does. Here's play 6. Let's get into multiple fouls. All right, play 6. As it loads, get the play published. Here we go. All right, so what are we going to have? We're going to have holding called, in the offensive line, and then we have a call for a late hit out of bounds. Excellent call, obviously. Clear and obvious foul, late hit out of bounds, completely unnecessary. Great call. Okay, but we had the holding by the offense. We have late hit out of bounds by the defense. So the options for the poll, check it out. Since there were fouls by both teams on the play, one option is, offset the fouls, replay the down. Another option is both penalties will be enforced in the order of occurrence from the previous spot. And then the third option on the poll is both penalties will be enforced, so we can just move the ball forward 5 yards from the end of the run. And for us math geniuses, why did we say move the ball forward? Because really we got offensive holding 10 yards on the offense. We got defense, personal foul, late hit out of bounds, which is 15. So the net gain, so to speak, will be 5. That's your option on the polls. Not trying to sway the votes, but that's how we came up with that. So we'll watch the plays. We'll cast our votes. Plays looping. So we'll go ahead and end the poll right here at the end of this slow-mo replay as it progresses. I probably shouldn't say that due to the time lag between the video and the poll, so we're learning. All right, so we'll end the poll. 82%. Both penalties will be enforced in the order of their occurrence from the previous spot. 12%. Both penalties will be enforced, so just move the ball forward 5 yards from the end of the run. So let's talk basic spot. Let's talk live ball, dead ball, fouls. Offensive holding, live ball foul. Late hit out of bounds, dead ball foul. By rule, Tuta, you're going to chime in with those rule references, which we all love. By rule, live ball, dead ball, both are enforced, okay? They do not combine to offset. College football, live ball foul, enforce it. Dead ball foul, enforce it. There's really no option to offset live ball and dead ball fouls. All right, so let's just take care of that live ball foul first. What is this? It's a running play. So basic spot, end of the run. Where's the spot of the foul? The spot of the foul, it was in the offensive line. It certainly wasn't beyond the neutral zone, so it was either at or behind, which means by rule, offensive holding fouls, the penalty for offensive holding fouls are enforced from the previous spot, okay? So handle the live ball foul, then handle the dead ball foul. So we're going to march back 10 for the offensive hold from the previous spot. Now, what is the offense going to do? I mean, it's a 15-yard penalty on the defense. Obviously, they're going to accept. We really don't even have to consult coaches for this. Both penalties, obvious accept. March back 10 from the previous spot for the hold. Now we're going to march 15 forward from the end of the hold enforcement, right? So we're going to march 15 forward there and award an automatic first down. Okay, so live ball, dead ball, tend to learn these the hard way. If you're me, just handle them in the order of occurrence. All right. So now, Tuta, let's talk. You want to add the rules references in, or should we talk about reporting?
Sure. Well, yeah. Real quick, rule reference is Rule 10. We have to know Rule 10 in order to enforce penalties. We just have to know Rule 10. So this particular rule is going to be FR 103, Rule 10-1-6. That's live ball and dead ball fouls. If we get into reporting, but before we get into reporting, Brandon, let me ask a mechanical question
Sure.
of you and how you would talk about handling this as so we have a center judge, and the center judge is going to mark off the penalty. So in this situation, we see we're not going to go half the distance for the holding. Would we go to the previous spot? Would you like your center judge to just go 5, or would you want him to go 10 and then go 15? Talk about that.
Yeah, let's, I know we all realize that it's going to be a net 5 forward from the previous spot for the offense. But just humor us. I mean, let's just work through the enforcement. Let's go to the previous spot. Let's walk back 10. And we know that we go yard line to yard line. So if it's the 40, it's the minus 41 or whatever it is. This looks like it's the minus 40. Then we go to the minus 30. We don't have to literally mark, step off 10 paces. We know where we're going. And then let's go from the minus 30 to the minus 45, ahead 15 yards. So if you agree, I'm in favor of actually enforcing both penalties as they are.
Yes. And the reason I think that's extremely important, Brandon, is because there's going to be times when we're going to be snapping from the minus 18.
Yeah.
And then if we just try to go 5 because we're so smart that, 10 and 15 is 5, then we may miss the fact that we're only going to go 9 if we're going from the minus 18, and then we're going to go forward 15. So that I think I agree with you, and I think it's very important to ensure that we actually mark both penalties off.
Yeah, I agree. Say hi to your dog for us.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
No worries. Okay,
They've
so
been
now
poisoned by Dale's dogs yesterday, man.
Yeah, that was great. So let's talk about reporting this foul. Center judge has the flag for holding. Deep wing has the flag for late hit out of bounds. All right. So, take us through. You might as well start to set. Maybe you've got some future crew members on the call too, Tom. So set some expectations. How do we want to process this?
Yeah. First things first. If I'm the deep wing and I threw a flag, or whoever threw the flag, I don't know if it was the line judge or the field judge, do not assume that the referee knows that your flag is a dead ball foul. Please, please, please make sure the referee understands after the play was over if you want to use that terminology, or dead ball personal foul if you want to use that terminology. It's obviously extremely important for us to know that we have a dead ball foul coupled with that live ball foul. Now, if I'm going to do an announcement, and again, y'all are putting me on the spot here, I would like to know, and I would like to announce the live ball foul first, since obviously we're going to enforce the live ball foul first. So I would have the center judge give me his foul, which is number 79, and then I probably would ask whoever is the calling official on the dead ball foul to stay with me, stay, right off camera, off to my right or left, whichever side he prefers, just in case I forget what that number is on the dead ball foul. We see it's number 6, but just in case I forget, I may need him to stay there. So I would look for the center judge to give me his foul information first. We'll get that squared away, get the foul information from the dead ball covering official, and then have the dead ball covering official stay with me as the center judge goes and does his job of marking off the penalty, excuse me.
All right. So what's your announcement?
Oh, you didn't tell me that. I had to do that. Okay. There are 2 fouls on the play. Holding, number 79, offense. We going 10, yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
10-yard penalty. I got myself mixed up thinking we were going half the distance or whatever. Okay.
So
let's start over.
timeout. So you know what's interesting about practicing announcements? The hardest what am I trying to say? The hardest venue to practice them is either like at a clinic in the classroom setting or like this when you're really not in the moment. It's crazy
Right.
how it's for some reason, and maybe some psychology experts out there will help us out. It's almost easier when you're actually in the moment in the game. The juices are flowing,
Yes.
the announcements are easier, but that's it's just an interesting aside. But you're going to get through
Well, it's
it. I
interesting.
know you are.
Well, here's the deal, Brandon. We're sitting here thinking about all kind of stuff. I'm thinking about my dogs and watching through the door. I'm mad about that. We're talking about if it's half the distance or if it's not half the distance. Talking about the center judge. We're talking about all that stuff. But if we were on the field, hopefully we wouldn't be thinking about any of that. We would just be zoned in on this play, as you mentioned.
That's right.
But all right, let's fix that. Holding number 79 offense, 10-yard penalty. After the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 6 defense, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Yeah, exactly. If you can work in that the penalties are enforced in the order in which they occurred, that's great.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not that smart.
That's all right.
Keep it simple.
I mean, and it's interesting. That's what I love about referee announcements. And we have a session coming up on those, I think in early March.
May 7th.
Wow. Yeah, early May. And so there's so many different styles, right, for referee announcements. And there's no correct answer. Whatever style suits your personality. The most important thing is that it's genuine, it's authentic, and we should be good to go. All right, let's go back. I think we have one question on the defensive holding play.
Yeah, guys, just awesome job tonight. Great discussion. A lot of good plays to learn from, and just provide opportunities to explore different kind of things. Thanks so much for the work you put in. Yeah, just wanted to clarify on play 2. There was some conversation in the chat relative to an automatic first down. And remember, we need a legal forward pass beyond the neutral zone. And so the question was about if the ball's tipped behind the neutral zone. And if we go back to Rule 2, we've got that definition for a ball to have crossed the neutral zone. It can't be touched behind the neutral zone. So in that case, we would not have an automatic first down. Just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
Yeah, correct.
So Daniel, just so everybody understands what you're saying, let's say the ball is tipped behind the neutral zone and continues beyond the neutral zone and hits the ground beyond the neutral zone. What you're telling us is that pass did not, by rule, cross the neutral zone.
Correct. That pass did not cross the neutral zone. And so then we would not have an automatic first down with the defensive holding foul.
Interesting rule, isn't it? I mean, really interesting rule. I wonder what the spirit of that rule is. Really, probably don't want to get into that. We can be on the call for.
Yeah, we'll be here all night.
But I mean, I wonder why that matters. But that's not a big deal. Hey, Andrew Morrell really has a nice question. Going back to play 1, where in the rule book does it say how the momentum spot is established? We mentioned it was a spot of first control and not where the catch is completed. What's interesting, though, Andrew, think about it. Think about a sideline catch, one of those toe drag sideline catch, player going to the ground to complete the process of the catch. If the dead ball spot was established by, and I know I'm using momentum spot, dead ball spot, go with me. If the dead ball spot was established by where the process of the catch was completed, none of those great sideline catches would even be catches, right? We know that he controls the ball. He literally taps his toe inbounds, and then he finishes the process of the catch deep into the sideline, into the bench area. That's a catch because we have control and a body part, in the field of play. The process of the catch is a time element that certainly, extends beyond that. But really, possession, the spot of possession is established by where control and a body part hit the ground. So Daniel, help me out there. What do you want to add to that? I mean, do you agree with that, or is there a better way to say that?
No, I think that's really a really good analogy to use. That's in a similar vein. I'm laughing a little bit because I don't know if you remember, but we've had a couple of really long conversations about this idea and the process of the catch relative to momentum. And I wish that you would have said what you just said now all those years ago. We would have been in a better place. But I think that's a great point. I think that firm control, body part down, just like on the sideline, is a great litmus test for us to apply here.
Yeah, we really did bat. I mean, that's just such a great concept because we really did bat that thing around for, I think it was years. I'm not out of line if I use the word years, where we talked about momentum with the player going to the ground and why would momentum be on if he doesn't complete the process of the catch till he's in the end zone. But just by rule, that spot is established by body part on the ground with firm control.
Yeah, a lot of conversations about that.
All right. Anything else before we wrap up? Any other questions? Just going through. Ty, anything to add? Maybe you want to just close us out.
No, I don't really have anything to add. Just another great session. I really love just listening to how different people have different perspectives on things. You and Daniel, and then looking at some of the questions that some of the audience is asking. I just love doing this. I'm glad we have this forum. Just appreciate everybody attending. Our next session is Saturday. Corey Luxner is, I believe we're doing OPI on Saturday at 11.
Blindside blocks.
Blindside blocks.
I'm jumping ahead a week. I'm sorry. Blindside blocks. Saturday.
Gonna be awesome.
Yes.
Carl Gertz, he had indisputable video evidence and overturned you on that blindside block.
Yeah.
That's it, Brandon. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Hey,
all right. Thank you. Good job.
Hey guys, real quick, just a reminder to everybody out there, we're looking for some audience participation. If you've got plays that you think you'd like to see broken down, you want to get in the mix a little bit, we'd love to hear from you. So look out for that email if you haven't seen it yet.
Absolutely. All right. Bye for now. Good night, everybody.